Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Brave the Wild is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, PodMN, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Audible, Stitcher Double Twist, many applications. Always appreciate those. It's a great pleasure to join you once again today. As the Minnesota Wild had kind of an up and down week, we had a postponed game until the end of the season, like May 15th, with the St. Louis Blues coming up. A strange week, up and down, all over the place. I'd say negative, generally speaking. The St. Louis Blues, boy, they're certainly reminding us that they won the Stanley Cup about a year and a half ago, or should we say 2 years already. Feels like 3 years, feels like 1 year. I don't know what it feels like. Just strange. And then our continued dominance over the Arizona Coyotes. So at the end of the day, the Wild finished 1-2 out of 3 official games. Could be worse, certainly could be a lot better. Especially that 9-1 loss. I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy. You crush the Colorado Avalanche. We had the hat trick with Kevin Fiala. We're all excited, this and that. And the next thing you know, we end up losing 9-1 to the St. Louis Blues. That was terrific. Just terrific. Of course, you had a day off in between. You had Kevin Fiala scratched right before the game. That was obviously a negative feeling going into it. Kyle Raw was put in the roster. And again, a sudden scratch for Kevin Fiala. Actually, the Wild, I believe they played shorthanded because of that. Nick Bustad, Marcus Foligno still recovering, but Foligno would return versus Arizona, thank God. Brad Hunt hasn't played in quite a while, which is what it is. 9-1. Kaapo Kahkonen was in the net for every single goal. 9-1. 9 goals because the Wild had to play the next night, so you figure, I guess, well, you got to rest Cam Talbot. You don't want to put him in and then put him in the next day, that type of thing. I mean, he's played enough games already, Kaapo Kahkonen. You faced a team that's at the point of, they're not at the brink of elimination or anything, but they played like they were, generally speaking. It was a terrible effort by the Wild and a spectacular effort by St. Louis. It was just kind of like, let's just let Dean Evison describe it for you right here.
They started great. We started bad.
And that pretty much summed up the whole game in just a couple words. It had nothing to do with really Kahkonen being tired because he hadn't played in a lot of games. Cam Talbot was playing in a lot of them. If anything, I think it's because he was out for too long. I think it's the reverse effect where you're out for too long, and I don't know. You just kind of lose some of that momentum he may have had. He was on fire for so long, and then how he didn't get to go back in the net again after getting shelled by Colorado. In his last start, so he didn't really get to kind of come back in a couple of days to try to redeem himself. That might have been just kind of hanging around on him, like, gosh, boy, I really hit a wall here. Hopefully, I can get over this hurdle. And then he hits a bigger wall, a worse wall, and was kept in the entire game. It's situations like this where goalies can get, I don't know. Hopefully, it's just one of those deals where it's just one game and you move on. This and that, the old cliche. But my goodness, he looked like Jones out there. In Iowa in one of those nasty games, one of those nasty performances early in the season where he just got absolutely shelled and didn't have a whole lot of help in front of him. And at the end of the day, Kahkonen did not have a whole lot of help in front of him. The same problems the Minnesota Wild have had the past few weeks here is, puck possession, losing face-offs, this and that. The other team just pretty much dominating the puck the whole night. Well, it's just the same thing again, basically, but just coming to fruition here in a big way. It just kind of was a snowball effect, so to speak, and this was an avalanche to pardon the pun, we were singing the blues and had an avalanche of goals come in our direction. After we had an avalanche of goals on Colorado, maybe we got a little too cute, a little too happy with ourselves, and nobody wants to think about that type of thing, where you get too happy with yourself after one game, this and that, even if it was against a good team. St. Louis is a defending Cup champion just a year ago. That's what they were, and they were still good last year. They just kind of stunk at the wrong time, basically, and that's why they were out of the playoffs so quickly. Kind of like, the Wild, and a lot of times you have a good regular season, and then here come the playoffs, and bam, that's pretty much what happened. Binnington much more sharp in this game than he had been. And remember, just a few days before this game, Binnington had stopped, 53 shots or something like that. It was crazy. So it just kind of is what it is. So as Kevin Fulness might say, just flush this one out. Let's stop having to flush this one out and this and that. You're hoping the Minnesota Wild will respond nicely and make the right adjustments, this and that, and it looked okay. The Wild played fine in the game, but the St. Louis Blues, they played fine also. The Wild gave up an opportunity here, and a major opportunity. Now, Joseph Cramarosa, talking about opportunities, he got his first assist on Nico Sturm's goals. He was attacking the net. Good job, Nico Sturm, as he also returned, and he looked really good here. Nice to see Nico Sturm being more and more productive again, as he was scratched for a few games, because basically what Michael Russo said was he wasn't really finishing his checks. He wasn't really, something was missing from Nico Sturm's game, and that was the real reason why he was scratched for multiple games. As good as Nico Sturm is, it was extremely frustrating to see him out, but hey, good for him. Matt Dumba was able to score on the power play as the Wild continued to do something on the power play, but to still end up losing 3-2 in a game where, you thought we were going to win. You thought everything was going to be okay. You let St. Louis back in it. At the last second, Mike Hoffman would get a second goal of the game and his 11th of the season. And right after a lot of people were saying he was a disappointment in St. Louis this year, of course, he scores 2 goals against us. Woohoo. Vince Dunn, who's been, I think, fairly disappointing as well as a young defenseman. He's not that great. A lot of people thought a little bit higher of him a couple of years ago, but we'll see. He still might end up being something long term. But Hoffman ultimately tying it up with less than a minute remaining, and our hearts just sank. Like, we were going to beat St. Louis, we were going to recover just a day later after a 9-1 demolition, and then it's tied up. Great. And you just knew it. And Ryan O'Reilly, crazy angle, crazy play, ended up finishing the game in overtime with 2 seconds remaining, by the way. Thought we were going to go to the infamous shootout, but 2 seconds remaining, Ryan O'Reilly finishes. Kind of gotta like those St. Louis Blues uniforms. They're pretty cool. They look like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s against the North Stars back in the day. Brett Hull and Adam Oates and guys like that. What a talented team that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. Be it Pierre Page was the coach, or be it Bob Gainey was the coach. North Stars. North Stars lost a series to St. Louis in 1989 in 5 games, 4-1, if I remember correctly. The North Stars were 3rd place. St. Louis was 2nd. It was just one of those type of situations. Blues were very talented back then, kind of like they are now. Just a totally different era. But it was cool seeing those uniforms. Brought you back to the good old days. The North Stars defeating the St. Louis Blues in 6 games after a spectacular season. Getting to the second round, they knocked off the Detroit Red Wings, if I remember correctly. Yes, in the first round that year in the 1991 Stanley Cup final run for the Minnesota North Stars. Finals, as we called it back then. Everything feels like a Mandela effect these days, where it's just, it was always the Stanley Cup final. And it was always the Frozen Four. What are you talking about? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Marcus Johansson's really been showing off his passing skills, though, the past couple of weeks. I've been very impressed with Marcus Johansson. I think it's been about 3 weeks now, and especially since his return from injury. He's certainly been a different player, hasn't he, since returning from that injury. Also probably feeling a little bit of, urgency here. It's a contract year for the guy. I mean, I think you'd want to show people that you can play a little bit instead of getting maybe a minimum contract somewhere with the Ottawa Senators or something, yes, the Ottawa Senators signed me at least because, they needed to fill up the roster, and I'll take the $900K or whatever the heck. No, I think Marcus Johansson would hope that he wants a little bit more going on here. Returning to the Wild, I have no idea, but maybe there is a glimmer of hope for that if he continues to build some chemistry with his teammates. That's one positive I would have to say has been coming out of the week here with Marcus Johansson the past few weeks. I've been impressed, actually. He's been quite a playmaker, to be quite honest. Not spectacular, but he's been a part of things. And beforehand, he really was not a part of things. He was invisible. 3-2 loss. At least we got a point out of it. So in the 3 games, you chalk that all up to, well, we got half of the points we could have gotten, that type of thing. Obviously, the St. Louis Blues game on Monday the 12th was postponed because of events in Brooklyn Center. Well, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to get into it. April 14th, yesterday, Minnesota Wild defeat the Arizona Coyotes in a 5-2. Solid overall team effort, I'd have to say. Is it the greatest game I ever saw? Not necessarily, but it was pretty fun. You got to see my guy, Jacob Chychrun, finish on the power play. That's just what he does. You know, I mean, he is awesome, isn't he? I think it's only his second power play goal of the season, though, which is weird. But he had like 8 power play assists as of like 2 weeks ago or so. Very, very valuable guy. Jacob Chychrun has really, really emerged for the Arizona Coyotes. I wouldn't mind having him on the Minnesota Wild roster, to be quite honest, despite the fact we have a lot of good defensemen here. This was kind of a great day for the old guys in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it was kind of generally the old guys, Lofiel and Kaprizov, would each get a point on Bonino's power play goal. That was a nice combination. Those guys all working together. Pretty cool. Bonino, obviously, for the faceoffs, and Kaprizov and Fiala. Again, Kaprizov kept the puck in the zone on that play. As Arizona tried to clear the puck, Kaprizov just kind of swallowed the puck up. It was awesome. I gave it to Fiala for a second, got it back. Kind of tried to center the pass. It bounced off a defender and right to Bonino for the finish. That was really cool. Kaprizov looked like he might have been hit in the chin or something milliseconds before the play, before the puck was let go, basically, to Bonino. But luckily, he's okay. He just kind of got banged up a little bit. That's why I saw him kind of grabbing his face a little bit instead of celebrating too excitedly after Bonino put the Wild up 3-1. But a great day for the old guys here. Marcus Johansson is 30. He's not that old, but he's older. Nice setup to Matt Zuccarello. He did multiple times in this game with Matt Zuccarello. Nice combination there. Johansson and Zuccarello. Kind of cool. You know, you didn't really think about Johansson and Zuccarello before. You thought about Kaprizov and Zuccarello, or Zuccarello-Kaprizov. You know, spectacular passing and Kaprizov finishing on Zuccarello's unbelievable passing. Zuccarello got 2 goals in the game, and Johansson, of all people, multiple assists. In the past, you thought maybe Johansson is more of a goal scorer type of guy, but, well, he's a more than capable passer, and you're seeing it. You're seeing it in a good way here, be it from the wing or as a center, but he's pretty much been wing all season. And he made a couple of nifty passes here. The dump-off pass on the second goal for Zuccarello. The first one was basically a kind of a setup, kind of a centering pass, you could say, to Zuccarello on a bit of a one-time type of play. But both of them were on the power play. Minnesota Wild scored 3 power play goals in this game. It was awesome. And then the Arizona Coyotes also. Again, Jacob Chychrun, their goal was on the power play. And then a very late Phil Kessel goal made it 5-2. Well, not very late, but midway through the third period. But the Wild still with a commanding 5-2 lead. Of course, we're all terrified because you never know what's going to happen. It's funny to think, as good as Cam Talbot has been, Arizona's only win against Minnesota was Cam Talbot's, I believe, his first game back, and he was not sharp. And again, that's further proof. When a goalie comes back after a long layoff, usually it's like an opposite effect. You think, oh, they're rested, they're going to be great. Not always. Not always. When they're sitting around too much, I think they're going to struggle. You saw that with Talbot, again, coming back with the injury, and then you saw that with Kahkonen. He was out for too long. Got to get Kahkonen in there more. You don't want Talbot to wear down or get banged up. Something weird happens heading into the postseason, because the Wild will be in the postseason this year. Talbot, we're going to be counting on him. And, well, Kahkonen needs to be in the net more and more, I think, moving forward. Again, also to regain his confidence. I mean, we might need him in Game 7 of a playoff series. You never know. Game 7 versus the Golden Knights. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen. So we're counting on him. Antti Raanta has he's definitely been a disappointment with Arizona. Thought of as a very positive free agent signing about 2.5 years ago. Hasn't worked out so great. Luckily, they were able to get Darcy Kemper, and then even that Aiden Hill has been very solid developing behind Darcy Kemper, generally speaking. Antti Raanta, boy, I don't know. It's not worked out at all. Nick Bonino with 3 points in the game. Did you ever think you'd see that with Minnesota? Bonino's been very quiet in the goal-scoring department, but generally speaking, and just the scoring in general department. But at the end of the day, you know, very, very nice game. And, of course, the face-offs and the intangibles he brings definitely helps. It's like, don't look now, but Zach Parise now at 16 points. Obviously, he had a very nice pass to Jared Spurgeon for his 5th goal already. Jared Spurgeon, wow. He's really, Parise and Spurgeon, 2 guys that had hardly any points about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Spurgeon's got 16 points now. As I keep harkening back to, he was stuck at like 3, 4, 5 points, all assists for like forever for Jared Spurgeon. Now he's at 16. He's starting to look like Jared Spurgeon again. And Parisi quietly, even though he missed time with sickness and he struggled this and that off and on during the course of the season, he's been bottom 6 all year because that's just what he is now. But still, 16 points in 33 games. I've seen worse. He's about at a 40-point clip. Honestly, that's not that bad. I've seen worse. You could have a worse bottom 6 forward. And, of course, the Moose returned, which had everybody excited. I think that got everybody up a bit as well. 16 total points on the season, still in 24 games. Actually, what a productive year for Marcus Foligno. We could talk very briefly, off and on, about the trades or lack thereof. There was conversation, about Nick Foligno possibly coming to the Minnesota Wild, but it looked like the price is just too high, especially when you consider he's just a rental, and maybe you can sign him as a free agent. We'll see what happens. As we're going to kind of bounce around at the NHL trade deadline and also grading the Minnesota Wild trade deadline deals of the past decade, Aaron Heckman of Gone Puck Wild, writing here. I thought I had it. As again, Aaron Heckman of Gone Puck Wild. Pardon me, this thing was going off and on. The Wild acquired, this was the most recent one, grading from A to basically A to F, different grades. Aaron Heckman, Galchenyuk for Addison, Galchenyuk and Addison, and a 2021 first-round pick for Jason Zucker. Pretty good trade, actually. Pittsburgh Penguins graded A. I agree with that grade. What a nice acquisition. And look at Kalen Addison, the way he's been developing in Iowa. We'll talk about him shortly. Belanger, way back in 2010. The Minnesota Wild acquired a second-round pick for Eric Belanger. He was not that good. He was okay once in a while, but at least we got a 2021 second-round pick there. Next one is acquired, Curtis Foster, Mr. Palmieri, and Stefan Veo, and a 2022 second-round pick, a conditional 2013 third-round pick for Marek Zidlicki. That was in 2012. Marek Zidlicki, who was good for a little while, and then disappointing. Fiala for Granlund 2019. Ultimately, that could be an A when you consider how Granlund's dropped off. But imagine if we were able to squeak out some kind of a draft pick there. That would definitely be an A+. But Fiala, definitely an upgrade. Definitely up there with the B. I would give it at least a B+ or A-, though. But I don't think he put a minus or plus on anything. It's just straight up letters here. This one I'm not sure I agree with too much. Not really. 2017. No. This was 2015. The Wild acquired Chris Stewart for a 2017 second-round pick. I don't know. Second-round pick for Chris Stewart? I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that one 100%. Again, it's not personal. It's business. We all have our own opinions. Stewart was productive, but he wasn't that good. Second-round pick's kind of expensive for what Chris Stewart was. I wasn't as high on Stewart as some of the other people were out there. This was a big one, and it ended up being pretty good for a little while. It's just unfortunately Pominville's contract that we signed him to ended up not helping us long-term. But for the 2 years there, Pominville, what a nice addition he was. That's why it's a B. Otherwise, it could have been an A, but it just wasn't. Obviously, when you consider what we gave up, it wasn't that much. Pominville, this was in 2012, 2013. So it was during that season when we got to play the Chicago Blackhawks. I called them Colorado last week, but it was Chicago, and we lost in 5 games. We acquired Jason Pominville in a 2014 fourth-round pick for Hackett, who was very disappointing. Matt Hackett, boy, I thought at the time I was scared, like he's going to be a really good goalie. Are you sure? He ended up being terrible. He ended up not making it at all. Johan Larsson, who was just fourth line at best, and he was a second-round pick. Think about that. A lot of people thought, man, this is an expensive trade. And a 2013 first-round pick, a 2014 second-round pick. This is in 2013. A pretty steep trade when you think about it. Pominville was a really, really good player at the time, like a 60 to 80-point guy with the Buffalo Sabres. Believe it or not, the Sabres actually used to be somewhat decent. At least Pominville was good for them anyway. He was really good for about 2 years. Unfortunately, within a couple of years, though, Pominville's prowess started to drop off by about 2015. He was more of a liability than a good thing, but he was adequate. In 2018, the Minnesota Wild got a 5th-round pick for Mike Riley, former Gopher. Disappointing player and only a 5th-round pick, kind of a meh trade. Tom Gilbert for Nick Schultz, 2012, kind of meh as well. One mediocre defenseman for another. Nick Schultz, you could argue, was the better player. Gilbert within a year was like terrible, and Schultz ended up lasting forever, but he didn't really ever stand out. This was a weird one, 2016. Yeah, Nicholas Backstrom, we just kind of dumped him off to the Calgary Flames at the end of his career. I was totally fine with that. It's just that, you can't really expect much for Nicholas Backstrom at that stage. He was done at age 38. I mean, he was done. This one I would have graded a little higher when you consider how he was pretty solid. Ilya Brizgalov for a 2014 fourth-round pick in 2014. He ended up saving our bacon, man, against the Colorado Avalanche and kept us pretty competitive against the Blackhawks in the second round. In fact, he was the only goalie, I thought, that actually had the Wild kind of hanging in there against the Chicago Blackhawks. Devin Dubnyk got his ass kicked, which was heartbreaking a year later. Absolutely got killed. It was just depressing, man. We went to 6 games, and if it wasn't for the Stanchion Gate, as they call it, we might have gone to Game 7, as Game 6 went to OT. And then you know what happened in Game 7s for Minnesota on the road in the playoffs? Magic. The Wild are 3-0 in that situation, don't forget. This one's like, what the heck? Yeah, this one's funny. The Minnesota Wild acquired Penner and rights to Lettinen, and not the same Lettinen, not the one from the Dell Stars, for Anton Hudobin, who wound up with the Stars years later. Anton Hudobin, remember? 2011, yep. He played for the Wild. I thought he was kind of good, and the Minnesota Wild just kind of gave up on him and moved on. And many years later, he was really valuable for the Dallas Stars, telling a final run. This was one of the worst trades of all time here. Even though I kind of liked Cody McCormick, but not really. The Hudobin trade was a great C. Now we're in the D's here. The D's. Matt Bleepin Molson. We traded away multiple second-round picks for Molson, McCormick, and Mitchell. Mitchell was just kind of, I don't know. I mean, he's just not a factor. McCormick was physical, but not that great. Torrey Mitchell, he was kind of a fast skater. That was about it. And then Molson was just awful. And he was once thought of as a really, really good second-line goal-scoring winger. And he was just awful. And ever since, I don't know, he'd hung around forever. Kind of he went from, again, like a really good second-line winger to like a quad-A player. It was weird. A quad-A player. It was strange. Like, he's too good for the AHL, but not qualified to be in the NHL. It was weird what happened with him. Like, his confidence just vanished. 2019, Ryan Donato, and a conditional 5th-round pick for Charlie Coyle. Yeah, I can understand why that's not enough for what you once thought Charlie Coyle was. But at the same time, Coyle, it was just good to get him out of here, honestly, because, again, same old thing. Nothing was going to change. Coyle is what he is, and he really wasn't a fit for the long-term plans of Minnesota Wild anymore, and he really wasn't. The worst trade, I think, this is one of the worst of all time. This is still in the D's. I would have given it an F. Barker for Janssen and Leddy, 2010. That was a terrible trade. That was the first bad trade of Chuck Fletcher's career. Nick Leddy ended up being adequate. Sean Bergenheim and a 2016 7th-round pick for a 2013 3rd-round pick. Again, that's just throwing a draft pick away, 2015. And the worst trade of all, I think. Martin Hanzal and, Ryan White. Awful. Hanzal was nothing, just an absolute nothing. He was slow and he stunk. Ryan White was an idiot. Mistake after mistake. He doesn't belong in the NHL whatsoever. I don't think he ever played another NHL game again after the Minnesota Wild did not re-sign him in the offseason. For we got a 2017 4th-round pick at least too. Yep, at least we got that. That was exciting. We also got rid of Grayson Downing. Isn't that exciting? Grayson Downing, a 2017 1st-round pick, a 2018 2nd-round pick. You realize this? Yeah, who we got in return here. And a 2019 conditional 4th-round pick. Wow. I think that was the worst. Yep, and I agree with Mr. Aaron Heckman there in a big way. Yep, thank you for that. Great Gone Puck Wild article there. So now we'll look at some of the trades really quickly here before I babble too long. Sorry for spending too much time maybe, but it was cool looking at the past trade deadline situation. Riley Nash to the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for a 2022 conditional 7th-round pick. Yay. That's the definition of a meh trade. Colorado Avalanche acquired Patrick Nemeth from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for a 4th-round selection in 2022. And then Dubnyk was traded to the Sharks for a defenseman, Greg Pattern, and a 5th-round pick. Greg Pattern. Remember Greg Pattern? It's just funny. both Minnesota Wild players very recently, of course. Brandon Montour to the from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for a third-round pick. That was Montreal. Interesting there. Interesting. The Panthers acquired Montour from Montreal. Tampa Bay Lightning acquired defenseman David Savard, not Dennis, but David. Dennis a little bit further back there, from the Columbus Blue Jackets as part of a 3-team trade. They don't happen as much in the NHL for the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for the Lightning's first-round pick in the 2021 NHL Draft and third-round pick in 2022. Interesting. New Jersey Devils acquired Jonas Seingather from the Washington Capitals in exchange for a conditional third-round pick in 2021. Montreal Canadiens acquired defenseman John Merrill from the Detroit Red Wings for a fifth-round pick in 2021 for Hayden Verbeek. Not Pat Verbeek, Hayden Verbeek. I believe that's his nephew. Remember Pat Verbeek of the Hartford Whalers and Dallas Stars, but Hartford Whalers, baby. Hartford frickin' Whalers. That's when he was awesome. And here's the one that basically sealed the deal for the Wild to not make a trade. Maple Leafs acquire Nick Foligno from the Columbus Blue Jackets and forward Stefan Noesen. I don't know why that just loaded. Crap. There we go. From the Sharks, San Jose Sharks, in exchange for a first-round pick in the 2021 NHL Draft, a fourth-round pick in 2022, and NHL Draft going to Columbus as a fourth-round pick in the 2021 NHL Draft going to San Jose. Okay, so that went to the Sharks. But Foligno, it could have been a first-round pick if Minnesota was going to get him just kind of straight up. But so I'm okay with that. David Rittich is leaving the Calgary Flames. David Rittich is going to Toronto to help out there, maybe back up Frederick there. Is it Fredrickson? I forget. Yeah, with Toronto there. David Rittich is on his way out in exchange for a third-round pick. That's not too bad. Mike Riley is going to the Boston Bruins. The former Gophers getting traded again in exchange for a third-round pick. Mike Riley, third-round pick? Well, I guess he was kind of productive with Ottawa. Third-round pick? Interesting. New York Islanders acquire Braden Coburn from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for a seventh-round pick. Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Jeff Carter of the Kings. He'd been there forever in exchange for conditional picks, whatever that means, in 2022 and 2023. Here's a huge one. Boston Bruins acquire, well, we'll see if it's huge. Who knows? It might be disappointing because he didn't do anything for Arizona last year in the playoffs, playoff push, excuse me. Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for forwards Anders Bjork and a second-round pick in 2021. Interesting one there. Maybe Taylor Hall skating for the Wild, but no, he's over 30 already. Chicago Blackhawks acquire Adam Gaudette in exchange for Matthew Highmore. Dmitry Kukulov to the Devils for a fourth-round pick. I'll move around a little bit here. Tampa Bay Lightning acquire Frederick Claesson from the Sharks. And the rights to goaltender Magus Shorna. Avalanche acquire Carl Soderberg in exchange for Josh Dickinson from the Blackhawks and the rights to Ryder Rolston. I'm guessing he's Ryder Rolston. So I'm guessing he's related to Brian Rolston. And some of these other trades, it's just, okay, let's just keep moving along. Here's an interesting one, maybe. Hayden Fleury. Wow. Anaheim Ducks acquire Hayden Fleury from the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for defenseman Johnny Hakanpää and a sixth-round pick. That just goes on forever. Can't talk about all of them, really. Most of them are just kind of prospects getting moved around and such. So we'll move on from that. Apologize if that got a little bit to be too much there, a little monotonous at the end of the day. But the Mike Modano Award for this episode might as well go to Cam Talbot. I mean, I think he stood out the best, really, this week. Obviously, Kaprizov was great. Nick Medino is an honorable mention. I mean, he was really good, actually, this past week. He might get and Marcus Johansson. It's kind of like those three guys. It might be kind of like they might all kind of share it, kind of like a gentle version of the Mike Modano Award, especially when you had a terrible game, that 9-1 loss to the St. Louis Blues. So they'll kind of share like a light version of it. Talbot, Bonino, and Marcus Johansson all had a really, really, really nice week, I think, particularly in the two games that Wild were competitive at the end of the day. The James Shepard Memorial, you got to just go with the whole roster there. It's not going to be Kahkonen, it's going to be everybody in the 9-1 loss. Sorry. They started bad, basically, at the end of the day. With that, we'll take a break, and we'll come back and we'll preview 4 games against 2 teams, the Sharks and the Coyotes. We are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. We're going to preview 4 games, but really with 2 teams, so it's simplified. But it's kind of nice. Makes things a little bit easier. We're also going to look at the prospects a little bit. Of course, you got the AHL going, a little bit of juniors, and of course the wrap-up of the NCAA hockey tournament. Congratulations, Philip Lindbergh, winning a national championship last weekend. But first, we're going to jump into the Vig It application. The Vig It application, we're affiliated with them, coming out of Pennsylvania. Appreciate it very much. Obviously, you can download it for either Apple or Android. Basically, you can post about your picks, see what others are saying about games. So it's basically a free sports betting application. You do not use real money. This is not for real money wagering. There's Vig It betting leagues, a month-long betting competitions to see who the best sports bettor is over the course of a month. So basically like groups and all that. You can have a group, a Brave the Wild group on Vig It, a Purple Mafia group on Vig It, Timberwolves Explosion group on Vig It. Bet free coins, win real prizes. So it's like free to play sports book. Betting stats. There's great information available on Vig It, on the Vig It line movement where the public is betting. So very, very enjoyable. Do join it. Do get the application out. Join it. Again, you can bet free coins and win real prizes. Looks kind of like Bitcoin a little bit, but obviously you're not dealing with Bitcoin. When they ask for a referral code, simply type in Paladinolive. Paladinolive. I'll put this in the show description. So that'll be all ready, set for you to go. The Minnesota Wild will play the Sharks twice, the San Jose Sharks, that is, and the Arizona Coyotes twice again as well. So staying in the division as always, of course, as always. That's been the case all season. San Jose Sharks no longer have Devin Dubnyk. So we'll probably see Martin Jones in the net. Martin Jones has had some good moments this year, believe it or not. Devin Dubnyk, Devin Dubnyk is off to the Colorado Avalanche. He's had some up and down moments during the course of the season. So who's going to be in net now for San Jose? If it's not Martin Jones, Joseph Corner or Alexei Melanchuk. Yeah, it's getting interesting. Evander Kane's leading the club in scoring. Thomas Hertl, there's even talk about the Wild should trade for him and this and that. And that would have been cool and everything, but it just didn't happen. Logan Couture, who's had some moments. He's had moments off and on during the course of the season. He's got 14 goals. Evander Kane's got 16. He's the best goal scorer on the Sharks, no question. Ryan Donato's been solid during the course of the season with 19 points. Brent Burns, 25 total points on the year, 5 goals. Obviously, he's dominated the Wild off and on during the course of the season. And last time around, Erik Karlsson was just a headache as he'd been so disappointing all year this year and was pretty mediocre last year. Signed this massive contract after being traded from the Ottawa Senators to the San Jose Sharks, just in time for the Sharks to kind of drop off the map and not be good anymore, which is sad but true. That's just how that goes sometimes, isn't it? Too little, too late, day late, and a dollar short. That's definitely the theme for the San Jose Sharks the last year and a half, I would have to say. Day late and a dollar short. They are definitely a dollar short in the Erik Karlsson deal. So, the Wild, can we take care of business against this club? I would hope so, but man, it was pretty rotten last time around. But the whole puck possession battle, the Sharks dominated it off and on. So we'll look at the injury situation. Mark Edward Vlasic, that would be the guy. I used to call him the Pickle Man because of Vlasic Pickles. Upper body injury as of April the 3rd, so he's been missing for a while. Matt Nieto has had a lower body injury since the 20th of March, so maybe an ankle or something like that. See what happens there. Kevin Fiala had an upper body injury. They said he was looking at his shot. I don't know if he got hit in the hand or what the deal was, but how he had to miss the first St. Louis game, and he's been better since, thankfully. Nick Bugle has had an upper body injury ever since April the 6th, and Marcus Foligno just returned. They're still showing him there. Just returned, lower body injury, definitely an ankle. They say broken ankle, basically hit off the puck and everything, hit from the shot, basically at the end of the day. The Sharks are 25th in goals, the Wild are 12th. Goals against the Sharks are 26th, the Wild are 8th. The Minnesota Wild power play continues to climb. We're now 25th at 17.1%. It has been unbelievable. In fact, for the month of April, 2 weeks in, so still got a ways to go. Minnesota Wild has the number 1 power play in the NHL. What do you think of that? After being the worst power play in the NHL from October pretty much all the way until March. But obviously we were in the 20s in those individual months, but generally speaking, it was the worst power play in the league by far. Penalty kill, the Wild is 5th in the league, 83.7. Sharks are 12th, which is decent, and both clubs have a major problem with penalties. Wild are the worst penalty team in the league, most penalties team in the league with 417 minutes. The Sharks just 6 minutes behind at 28th place in the league. The Sharks have had some moments against Minnesota this season, and in fact, Why is this saying the Wild lead the series 3-0? That is false. That's just flat out false. So, Minnesota won the first matchup 4-1. The Sharks won the matchup 5-3. So, well, Wild crushed the Sharks 6-2. In the third matchup, San Jose beat us in the shootout. Yep, that was that Erik Karlsson frustration. And then the next game, we lost again, 4-2. Puck possession, San Jose. San Jose swept us in that little back-to-back situation. So we'll see what happens coming up here. Hopefully we don't get swept again. I don't think it was back-to-back, though. It was like a Monday and Wednesday type of deal. You know how those go. In this case, it is back-to-back. So do expect Kahkonen to be in net on one of the days here. I believe it's a Friday-Saturday situation. It's going to be... Kahkonen's got to get back in net. He has got to. It is a Friday-Saturday. And next week it's going to be a back-to-back with the Los Angeles Kings and the San Jose Sharks. So we'll have to travel north for Saturday from Los Angeles to San Jose, California next week. But these will both be in the X. So a little bit easier in a sense. At least you're staying in one place and you're at home and this and that. Boy, oh boy. Last time around, though, it was in San Jose, the Shark Tank, which used to be absolutely a death knell for the Wild for years in the Joe Thornton era and such, which was a long time, the Joe Thornton era. We always lost to the Sharks back in those days. Going all the way back to Danny Heatley and such. We got to at least get a split here, hopefully a sweep. I would hope a sweep. And really, in this 3-game or 4-game group here coming up into next week's show, we got to go at least 3-1, don't we? You got to at least go 3-1. I mean, if you're going to lose one, you're going to lose one. Maybe have a stinker against the Sharks or the Arizona Coyotes, but you got to think Arizona's going to get another break in there somewhere. That's what I'm afraid of as well. I mean, it could be a really frustrating 500 week, but who knows? Hopefully the Wild at least go 3-1, if not 4-0. 4-0 would feel freaking awesome. Then you're on another 5-game win streak heading into Los Angeles next Friday. Kahkonen, will he play tonight? Friday night, pardon me. I think Kahkonen gets the nod in the first game. Last time around, I thought he would get it in the second one, but then they gave it to him in the first, and then it was Demolition Derby. Get Kahkonen in there. He's already had a week off. Don't make him think about it anymore. Just get him in there, and hopefully the Minnesota Wild win. And I will pick a Wild victory, 4-2. Kahkonen steps up and has a good performance. Stops over 30 shots in the game from the Sharks. The Wild end up winning 4-2 against a team that gives up goals. So hopefully it's not going to be Martin Jones looking like Ken Dryden again, like he did last time around. That was like weird. Come on, Martin Jones. Yeah, he looked like Ken Dryden out there. He sure did. 4-2 win though for Minnesota. The most likely guy to score will be Kirill Kaprizov. The next day, Cam Talbot, will he keep rolling? Will he keep winning games? As he's been so spectacular at home. Kahkonen was great on the road. I think it'd be nice to see him get one of those Arizona games on the road, but I don't know. I think he's just going to get one of these two, and I do believe he wins 4-2. The next game, maybe Talbot. I don't know, 3-2 win for the Sharks. Maybe maybe the Sharks have some kind of weird situation here where they really step up in net again. Martin Jones. I can't imagine he's going to play in both games though, which may help the Wild in a big way. Maybe going against an inexperienced goaltender who hasn't really seen a whole lot of action, and. Because, I mean, I don't know. They have a weird situation going on in San Jose. Obviously, I mean, Dubnyk was no long-term solution for anything. He's in his mid-30s. He's been pretty lousy, even though he had a couple of good moments, particularly a good game against the Vegas Golden Knights, which Isha of the Soda Pod reminded me of a few weeks back. I got a feeling we're going to have a 3-2 loss somewhere in here, 4-2, maybe maybe it goes to a shootout or an empty net situation, but 3 or 4-2 type of thing. I keep coming up with 4-2 in like almost every game. It's kind of funny, but I think the Wild end up not winning one of these games. Nope, I'm going to change my mind. The Wild do sweep the San Jose Sharks. We do. A 3-2 type of situation, massively empty net, but 3-2 situation for Minnesota with Cam Talbot in net. The Wild do win. We sweep the Sharks. I've got a different vibe coming now. The most likely guy to score on Saturday, let's go with Jared Spurgeon. Just keeps it coming. His 6th goal of the season. Minnesota Wild end up defeating the Sharks. So we actually sweep the Sharks because their goalie situation is getting a little weird now. As long as we were able to beat Martin Jones in one of the games, I got to think we're going to beat one of those other guys at the end of the day. I can't imagine the Wild win, losing both of those. It might actually be a 5-2 Wild win, but Spurgeon's going to get one of the goals. Arizona again. We play Arizona for the 95th time. And I think Arizona's going to get one of their wins, because the Wild have dominated the Arizona Coyotes all year, and this is the season wrap-up between these two games coming up Monday and Wednesday. I think Arizona's not going to let the Wild off with just a sweep here at the end of the day. I don't think so. They got to be getting hungry. I'm sure they're very frustrated. I think they're going to get at least one more win this season, and the Wild end up winning the season series 6-2 over the Arizona Coyotes. 6-2 in the 8 games. Coyotes win on Monday. I'll say the Coyotes win on Monday after the sweep. Final score 5-2. No, it's going to be 4-2 for the Arizona Coyotes. 3-1, 4-2. I think I just think that Arizona's going to do something. They're just going to get the job done in one of those games. We'll go with like a 5-3 win for Arizona, and then the Wild end up winning the next one. They end up winning the next one 5-3, 5-3, 5-2, a significant win on Wednesday. Most likely got to score on Monday. It's going to be we'll go with Kevin Fiala, and on Wednesday, we go with the real crazy one. Jordan Greenway finally puts one in the net again. That would be great. Obviously, we're playing against the same guys here. Well, I mean, Darcy Kemper, has he been out, or what's the story with him? It seems like we never go against Darcy Kemper anymore. Yeah, lower body injury as of March the 8th, so that's why. Yep, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, where has Darcy Kemper been? Marian Hossa is about with the flu. Marian Hossa? Come on, what's going on here? Yeah, it's not Marian Hossa. Come on. Jordan Gross is got a lower body injury as of April 11th. So, yeah, that's Darcy Kemper injury has really derailed the Arizona Coyotes. But I don't think they're going to let us off. I think it's going to be a trap here somewhere. The Coyotes have been awful. They've lost like 5+ games in a row. The Sharks have had some moments here and there, but they're not that good either. And obviously, they gave up their backup goaltender already, old veteran backup goaltender who might have had a good game against the Wild, believe it or not, if he was in net in one of those games. I think Minnesota does lose one of these games, though. I think Aiden Hill will be the guy in net when the Arizona Coyotes win, and then Antti Ranta will be in net when the Coyotes do not win. The Wild beat Ranta again, but lose to Aiden Hill, who's been a thorn in the Wild side in the past. Let's now move on to the prospects, eh? Well, that Frozen Four, at least the Frozen Four games were good. The National Championship game, not so much. A 5-0 crushing for the St. Cloud State Huskies to the hands of the UMass Amherst, the Minutemen. Cool name, Minutemen. Very patriotic, right? Minnesota Duluth knocked out by the Minutemen. That's when I knew the Minutemen were going to win the national championship. I just knew it, and it was going to wind up as the most Minnesota thing ever. You got 3 Minnesota teams in the Frozen Four, but there's always that one team that's not from Minnesota. It's from the East Coast. Guess what? The East Coast team won the national championship. The UMass Amherst Minutemen with a guy by the name of Philip Lindbergh, who was unfortunately not going to be a net in the Frozen Four game, but his teammate, his buddy, his goalie platoon buddy, Matt Murray, not of the Pittsburgh Penguins, I know. Okay, Matthew Murray, held his own. He held his own against the 2-time defending national champion Minnesota Duluth. UMass ended up surviving in overtime. I mean, you see a game go to overtime against Duluth, it's like Duluth wins. They've won 9 straight tournament games. They've been spectacular. And I tweeted out in that third period, the winner of this game wins the national championship. Was I right or was I right? It wasn't going to be St. Cloud. It wasn't going to be Mankato. And, of course, St. Cloud had already won. They were waiting for the winner of Duluth versus UMass Amherst. So one way or another, you're going to get a Minnesota team in the national championship game from the other side. You thought for sure Duluth would make it. Oh, Duluth's going to make it for sure because they're Minnesota Duluth. They're a dynasty, and they are. They are a dynasty. They deserve that title. St. Cloud State finally getting to a national championship game. Mankato State Mavericks, Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks finally getting a tournament win against Minnesota. No, actually not against Minnesota, against Quinnipiac, and then they crushed the Minnesota Gophers, which was disgusting. Very similar to what UMass Amherst did to the St. Cloud State Huskies. Pretty much, they just dominated the puck and they won the game. It's just that simple. Very happy that Philip Lindbergh was able to come in and play. It must have been a false positive or a negative test, something like that, where it was more of like a precautionary thing. That's why he was unable to play. That or maybe the time. But I mean, the news broke pretty late that Philip Lindbergh was not going to be able to play. in the Frozen Four game, but then ultimately did get to play in the national title game. He was shut out by Minnesota Duluth, of all teams, 2 years ago in a 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs when they went up winning their second straight national championship because they couldn't play last year, and maybe they would have won 3 in a row. Who knows? Poor Nick Swaney didn't get to play in the tournament last year, but what an unbelievable professional career for Nick Swaney. We're about to talk about him in a second. But Philip Lindbergh, instead of seeing his team in front of him get shut out, he wound up shutting out the St. Cloud State Huskies and leading to a national championship. So very, very, very happy for Philip Lindbergh signing with winding up winning a national championship this past couple of weeks here, this past week. Very, very exciting. Nick Swaney, again, unfortunately, unable to get a third national championship, but what an amazing run for him. Leading goal scorer tied with one other guy, 13 goals on the season with Duluth. What an amazing run, though. I'm very happy to have him on the Minnesota Wild at the end of the day. He'll be at least starting off with the Iowa Wild. It's a 1-year entry-level contract. Only 1 year, shoot, but we'll hopefully keep him around after this, which it was 28 points this past year. Again, 13 goals, 15 assists. He is now on an ATO, as they call it, amateur tryout for the remainder of the season. And we'll see. He has not played with the Iowa Wild just yet, but should be coming up here very, very shortly. I believe as soon as tonight. Matt Boldy off to a spectacular start with the Iowa Wild. We'll get back to him extremely shortly as we go back and forth here. Again, just very happy to have Nick Swaney in the fold. Now the talk is they're still kind of letting the guys think it over. Sam Henches is, I believe that's how you say his name, Sam Henches, and even Matt Hendricks said that on the Straight from the Source podcast with Michael Russo. I always thought it was Henches. Heck, the vice president of operations for Maple Grove Boston Scientific was Dale Henches, maybe even a relative of the guy. It wasn't Hentkes or Hentges or Hentjula, whatever the heck. It's Henches. Henches, and then, of course, Philip Lindbergh. We'll wait and see what their decision is moving forward. They will be both going into their senior year in college if they do not come to the at least the Iowa Wild next season moving forward. Bryce Misley, of course, again with Iowa Wild, 2 points so far, 1 goal, 1 assist, 6 total games for him. We're going to Iowa right now. Kahkonen Addison just continues to dominate. Him and Matt Boldy hooking up on a couple of nice plays in their first 3 games together. They'll be teammates hopefully for many years in Minnesota, which would be great. Kahkonen Addison, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 total points. Gabriel Dumont is a point-a-game guy, but unfortunately for him, 29 years of age. Damien Giroux, again, who's been used in every situation for the Iowa Wild. Power play, penalty kill. Only 20 years of age, 18 points in 23 games. Extremely solid. Crazy to think, though, Kahkonen Addison is only 1 point behind him, and he's played in less games because he was up in Minnesota for a little bit. Connor DeWeer also been absolutely great. He is tied for the team lead in goals with Gabriel Dumont with 9 for the Iowa Wild, who've been playing significantly better the past few weeks. Ryan O'Rourke, who would have been in juniors, has been really holding his own all season at age of 18. Wow, Ryan O'Rourke, who's got captain in his future. He's captain material, alternate captain, whatever it is. Louis Belpedio finally got his 4th assist. He's only had 5 total points on the season. Definitely been a frustrating run for him. Mason Shaw has been in and out, but generally very solid. And Gerald Mayhew, who'd been on the taxi squad most of the year and unable to play with the Iowa Wild, but up kind of hanging around here in case of emergency, so to speak. He's been picking it up of late as Iowa's offense has been getting better. Good for him. And Derek Baribeau, as I'm saying it correctly now, 5-1 on the season. Very strong goals against average. A lot of people are saying that he's not really a serious prospect for the Minnesota Wild, but I think he's okay. If he's holding his own like this in the AHL, why shouldn't he be a candidate? Why shouldn't he be like a Dwayne Rolston or like something like that? Nicholas Backstrom, who just kind of popped up, wasn't a high draft pick or anything, wasn't a draft pick at all, ended up being a good player in the NHL. Maybe I don't think Baribeau is necessarily a Nicholas Backstrom or Dwayne Rolston or anything, but who knows? I mean, don't write him off just yet. Isn't he like only 21? So, and again, Hunter Jones, very strong very strong the past few weeks there in the course, getting that shutout. I felt so good for him after the horrible, painful start for him. Again, with half of the lineup being kind of tossed around all over the place. But now it's becoming a pretty strong team. You get Matthew Boldy, who's been awesome in the 3 games he's played in, 2 goals, 1 assist. And now we're going to add Nick Swaney to the mix as well, a guy who's won multiple national championships, and he's very productive. He shoots the puck a hell of a lot, so obviously his shot percentage is probably not too high, considering 13 goals versus like a, as as Derek Felska would say, like 9 shots a game, basically. Obviously he's just kind of like having fun exaggerating, but it's true though. He shoots a lot, but doesn't always finish, that kind of thing. Kind of like Parisi, right? No. Sorry. Kind of like Parisi, though, just being honest, right? At least it's nice to see Iowa kind of settling down and getting better again, which feels damn good for after such a horrendous start to the season. I feel bad, again, for the goaltenders there, especially Hunter Jones. That was extremely painful. A guy who's been mentioned recently, Philip Johansson, obviously strong season this past year, very much kind of hanging in there. He got into the postseason. Looks like they're done, though, which is unfortunate. 2 games, no goals for Philip Johansson in the postseason for his club. Not sure why only 2 games, but that's kind of how it is at the moment. 11 total points, 6 goals in 46 games for Frölunda. Good for him, at the very least. We'll kind of bounce around now a bit into juniors. Again, Ivan Lodney hasn't played a single game for Iowa. That's getting frustrating. And again, we're still waiting for Sam Henches and Philip Lindbergh, the 2 most recent 7th-round picks. See what happens with them. Not most recent, but recent, 2018 and 2019, both of them moving into their senior year, interestingly enough, and Swaney finishing his senior year, coming to Iowa right now. Again, Marco Rossi is just about healthy, ready to go, so we'll see him in the fall. Really looking forward to how he turns out there. Adam Beckman, very much picking it up. He had a huge game very recently for the Spokane Chiefs. Wow. He's now at 16 points in 12 total games, 9 goals. He's exploding again. After a kind of a slow start to the season, Adam Beckman is blowing up again, which is awesome. As clearly he held his own in Iowa in a big way, especially early on. He had like a big game-winning goal, this and that. So, and at such a young age, for him to be productive like that in the AHL is a really, really good sign. And he's just exploding now in the WHL. Hopefully he can move on to the pros next year, though, with the whole age situation once he gets to age 20. Most recently, Adam Beckman with a goal and an assist, but he has really picked it up this past week. His multiple-point games here. 9 goals, 7 assists. I got to think he might be prospect of the week as we head into the MNW prospects conversation. As just a few days ago before that, he had 2 goals and 2 assists on April the 13th, just a couple of days ago here. Spectacular run for him. So 6 points in 3 games, basically 2 points a game here. They've really been picking it up. Multiple point games on the 7th and the 9th also. Adam Beckman, after, again, kind of a slow start, he had a 3-point game to open up the WHL season for the Spokane Chiefs. It was quiet for about a week and a half there, and then just blew up as of April the 7th on, after having a couple of days off there. Really picked it up. Adam Beckman, very, very exciting moving forward here. Again, I look forward to him playing some kind of professional hockey next year, hopefully with the AHL. With that, I think that's mostly it right now. Most of the guys are either in the professional level, like AHL, like Brian DeHeim, guys like that, or the Euro leagues are done and there's no OHL or QMHL or PCHL. So that's just kind of the situation there. Hovey's season's over. Jack McBain, the college season's over for Boston College. We'll see what happens with him and this and that. He's not leaving college, so it'll be exciting to see his junior year how good he does. Obviously, pretty cool moving forward. He's actually moving into his senior year, isn't he? Jack McBain. Yeah, he's moving into his senior year just like Sam Henches and such. With that, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back for the fan interaction segment. Back on Brave the Wild. Wild. Time to get to fan interaction and the questions and comments and all that. Twitter, at Brave the Wild, at Brave the Wild. Derek Felska retweeted the most recent show. I believe it was also retweeted by Vince Germano. It was liked by Brian Herrera. Thank you so much for that. And then Sound the Foghorn, kind enough to kind of share all of our shows here. He was saying, just a reminder, no pod from us this week. Double dipping Tuesday and Thursday next week. So that tells you they're doing multiple shows. Yep. In the meantime, check out some other great shows, and we were on the list there. Soda Pod, Bartown Beauty Podcast, Brave the Wild 10K Rinks, Russo Hockey with Anthony LaBenta. Yep, worst seats in the house. Anthony LaBenta. So thank you very much, Sound the Foghorn, for that. Really appreciate that. And got some followers this week. This was great. Kind of a fun conversation back and forth and some of these positive and negative games that took place over the course of time. Really appreciate those of you that are following. I mean, just, like listening to the show and all that. And then we'll move forward. Derek Felska said, listening to Brave the Wild as Paladinolive, that would be me, talks about the surging Minnesota Wild power play, Wild prospects, and the Iowa Wild, and fan questions too from Brian, Jay, and of course Mr. Justin Bakke, MNW prospects, Derek Felska, Crease and Assist. Do look that up. Basically, at Crease and Assist for Twitter. He shares his articles there, and of course you can look it up in Google. But yeah, I mean, Twitter, definitely give him a follow. He will always jump on board, and I always retweet it as well. That's another way to find him and get him right away. At Crease and Assist, awesome writer. Him and his wife. His wife writes for Teresa Ferries. She writes the previews usually. Derek Felska writes the post game, and of course there's other stories that pop up during the course of the season as well, including a crazy podcaster from Golden Valley once wrote about that. And I owe Derek an article as well, don't I? From Gone Puck Wild. That's where I write off and on. Not enough. I don't write enough. I'm very grateful they're keeping me on board. I'm just always kind of busy with so many other things, which is frustrating. I'll start writing an article, and then something will happen, and then you know how articles become, sometimes they become obsolete because something happened, something changed, this and that. It's kind of frustrating. All of a sudden, like Johansson, Fiala, they're playing great together. Oh, well, they're not playing together at all now. What the hell? So, stuff like that. You get the idea there. They were playing great together, but generally speaking, Marcus Johansson, that might be an article in itself. Marcus Johansson finding chemistry all over the place. He's actually doing a good job there. That's actually not a bad article idea. Just don't steal it from me now. Trying to move up here for the questions, comments. Tom Hayen, of course, looking forward to hearing from him again soon. He'll be back. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. His mother passed away, so that's why he's been quiet. So major condolences to Tom Hayen there and his family. So major. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, by the way. Derek was saying, got a question on your mind. Questions and comments are always welcome. Justin Bakke, kind enough to retweet that as well. Derek Felska says, which NHL team do you think was the biggest winner during the trade deadline, and which was the biggest head scratcher? In a way, Colorado getting Devin Dubnyk. In a way, I know I'm being mean. There's multiple head scratchers, but that one is kind of weird. Devin Dubnyk, it's like... But then again, it shows how desperate Colorado is to have some kind of a backup goalie, because without Grubauer, they're dead. That's going to be their undoing. The goaltending, because Grubauer's getting tired, and look what the Wild did to him. Grubauer's getting worn out. And what happened to the Wild every year when Dubnyk was so great? He got worn out, and he stunk in the playoffs because of it. And what's happening to Grubauer? Welcome to the National Hockey League, folks. Don't ever overuse a goaltender, and then you have to desperately, oh God, we need a backup. Let's get this washed up veteran who hasn't been good for 2 or 3 years, and hope to God he's okay when it matters, and he's not, and we lost and we're out in the first or second round, even though we had a freaking awesome season. I almost dropped an F-bomb. Sounds familiar. It just sounds familiar. Dubnyk was good in that extremely frustrating St. Louis series. That was just Jake Allen standing on his head for a couple games, and, well, too bad for them it wasn't the Cup final and whatever. But they ended up winning the Cup final with somebody else named Jordan Binnington. Okay, I'll move forward now. I keep babbling. Derek Felska says, supposedly Wild player development director Brad Bombardier, and of course former Wild defenseman who I loved that guy, is talking with some of the Minnesota Wild's college prospects who are juniors. That would be, Philip Lindbergh and Sam Hentges, and leaving the choice up to them whether they go pro. What would you recommend for them both? Boy. At the end of the day, whatever they feel comfortable with. Oh, man. Philip Lindbergh, if I had to, gun to my head, Philip Lindbergh, stay in school. Not just because I'm not like, oh my God, you have to have your degree, blah, 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 even though it's good to have. It's good to have. Well, and in their case, at least it's free. So, yeah, that's the other good thing. But I'm not one of those people that's like telling people with a gun to their head, get your degree, It's up to them what they want to do when it comes to that kind of thing at the end of the day. Goalies take longer to develop. Now, Lindbergh, he does look like he's mastered college hockey as a goalie. He's kept his goals against average under 2, but might as well stay one more year. Because do you want to drag him into Iowa right away? God, that's a tough one. Maybe he could be good in Iowa right away. But, goalies just take longer. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe just one more year. Henches, I definitely say stay one more year for Henches. He did not have a very good year. Go out and have a great, strong senior year. Lindbergh, I think, is kind of back and forth. I'm turning into old wishy-washy Charlie Brown right now with Philip Lindbergh because he's done so good from freshman year to now. He's kept his goals against average under 2. That's awesome. Sam Henches, though, I say stay for sure. I don't think he's ready. I think he'd come to the AHL and just, it would just be like a meh season, honestly. Dominate as a senior. Please dominate. I hope he does. Hope he doesn't get hurt. Please pray that he doesn't get hurt. This and that. Go and have a good, strong senior year. Maybe win a national championship. Maybe win a national championship. And then, come to the Iowa Wild and be confident, ready to rock and roll, because now you'll know for sure that it's time. You're a professional now. You finished, just like Nick Swaney. So Henches, I say stay for sure. Lindbergh, I'm getting wishy-washy right now as I speak. Derek Felska says, despite the fact he had a strong start, 6'1" right shot defenseman Philip Joe Hansen has kind of flattened since. Do you think the Wild tender him an offer or not? Yeah, that's been in discussions. I say yes. I say they're gonna give him a chance. I say they will. He's not been a terrible disappointment. It sounds like his mental game is really good. His mental game is really good. He's just not an offensive player necessarily. He's capable offensively, but he just moves the puck well. You know how that is. I think there's something there. I do. He will not be a star. Maybe he will be, and I'm way off. Odds are he's not going to be a star. He's just going to be decent. Believe he's right shot, so oh boy. That's the other thing. Boy. Right shot. Kalen Addison, Matt Dumba. Oh, and this guy named Jared Spurgeon who signed for 6 more years and he's the captain. There I go wishy-washy again. I will say they're gonna tender him though. I think they will. I'd be surprised if they don't. That's just my guess. I think they're going to tender him, give him a chance, see what happens, and maybe he's included in a trade at some point moving forward. Hopefully one we don't regret. But, yeah. Whole bunch of nopes. At Brave the Wild says, no doubt Talbot has been amazing, but in Capo's last start, a disaster in all areas. He looked slow and late. Seems like they have lost a little confidence in Capo, and I feel if we get in the playoffs, Isn't it better to have a fresher Talbot? I think it is, yeah, and we need to get Capo out there more. So I agree with you 1,000%. A whole bunch of nopes. That'll be Jody Halve is the name. Yes, 1,000% agree with that. Get Kahkonen in. You got to at least get him in one game with the San Jose Sharks here, of course. And I wouldn't complain if he was on the road versus Arizona, because his road record was awesome. It was and is awesome. I say get him in there. Get him in there more often, please do. This like once every 2 weeks nonsense is not going to get it done. That's what derailed some of our seasons in the past. There's good. Jay Bushy and Brian, they came back. I love it. Great to see you guys here. Jay Bushy says, do we think Kak is starting to show he's wearing down some? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's wearing down. Maybe he might have been, but then it was the opposite, where it seemed like he got iced, like when he's out too long. Just like when Talbot was out too long with the injury, he came back and got hammered by the Arizona Coyotes. And then Kahkonen's out, and he comes, or not out, but like benched for too long, and comes in against the St. Louis team that is like, as they say, a wounded animal, back against the wall, where they're going to chomp your head off. like a wounded, even like a wounded little kitty like Chloe was years ago when she broke her leg suddenly. And I went to pick her up, and she almost took my eye out with her teeth. She almost bit my eye right out of my. Yeah, it was pretty scary. And this is an innocent, cute little cat that was wounded, and that's kind of what the St. Louis Blues were. Yeah, it got a little bit weird there. Sorry about that. That's what I think really happened. He was going against a wounded animal that that it was like, we are not losing tonight. Bleep this, And we're the Stanley Cup champions of 2019, and we're gonna compete for it again this year. We're not done yet. That's what I think he went up against. And, of course, again, being iced for too long. There I go, babbling too much. Brian Herrera says, who do you think... Yeah, I like this one. Who do you think will be the unrestricted free agent we keep out of Bukestad? Cole, Bonino, or Johansson? I think Bukestad, no. Johansson's starting to make a case, isn't he? He's starting to make a case. But I think we're not going to want to commit a lot of money to anybody. I can see a $2 million 1 or 2 year contract for Bonino, but probably just a 1 year contract for Nick Bonino. $2 million. That's my guess. That's what I'm throwing out there. $2 million, $2.1 million. He's not going to get $4 million again. There's no way. The one I want the most is Cole. I like Cole, man, and he fills a position that's kind of, it's a little bit on the thin side, little on the thin side, particularly in the prospect pool, depending on how excited you get with, some of those guys out there. The guys like Marshall Warren, he's still got I feel like he's still light years away. Jacob Golden, I don't know what to say about Jacob Golden. It sucks that he hasn't played the whole year for the London Knights. Man, why? Yep, Jacob Golden needs to come to the AHL, doesn't he? He's 22. Did we just I don't know what's going on with Jacob Golden. I don't know if the Wild gave up on him or what, but he's old enough to be in the AHL. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's the only other left defenseman at the moment in the system, because Philip Johansson and Simon Johansson are both right shots. We're getting a little too... Yeah, I mean, somebody's getting traded, and it isn't just Dumba. It's going to be one of these other guys. They might be packaged in the deal. Like the rights to Simon Johansson, traded for who knows, that kind of deal. I like Ian Cole a lot. It's just his price tag might be a little high. I don't know, he's making over $3 million a year right now. If we can get him down to 2.5, and it's like, you don't want to tell a guy, thanks for playing great for us, but please take a pay cut. That's the other hard part. Boy, that is tough. That is a tough situation. So, to make it simple, maybe Nick Bonino for $2 million, but otherwise, Ian Cole's who I want to keep. If we can keep him, if we can get him under $3 million, even 2.8, for like a 1 year deal, 2.8 or something. Might be going that direction, 2.7 for Ian Cole. That's who I want the most, but Bonino I think is the most likely. Long story longer. I think that's it. Nope, there's a little more. No, yes, no, yes, no. That is it. I don't think there's any more questions, unfortunately. I'll put in the hashtag dealie, but it seems to work better with the notifications than the hashtag. Hashtag BTWMN. Hashtag BTWMN. Yeah, it's good that you still put that in there. It's just that seems to be more organized in the notifications, and then they all kind of work together, so to speak. I think that's it, though. Yeah, most of these are from previous shows. All of these are from previous shows, not most of them. So with that said, and I missed some of you, Ty Sandstrom, Rich Blummer. Man, I missed you guys. Come back. Dave Johnson, come back. Mike Moko V65, come back. Where are all of you guys? Teresa Farias, hope to hear from her again as well. It is what it is, though. People are busy, or they just don't feel they have like a question they want to ask or a comment. It is what it is. Maybe they're just blanking right now and they're thinking about other things. But with that said, thank you all of you for getting involved with this show. I always appreciate it so much. Derek Felska for encouraging people to join on board. Always appreciate it. And I know at least one person's coming back who's been missing the lightning round legend of Tom Hayen. Looking forward to hearing from him again soon. Again, my condolences about what's happened there. M&W Prospects. M&W Prospects, I'm very proud to be a part of that. Pavel Bennett, who covers the Euro Leagues and such, and he'll jump in with anything, college, AHL, but the Euro Leagues especially. Justin Bakke, Brandon Quast, they keep up with college, AHL, ECHL, all that good stuff. Really appreciate being a part of that. And I've in the past covered the BCHL and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, but they've not been playing, unfortunately. So that's the other thing. And of course, OHL and all those others, they kept up with those as well. Brandon Quast and Justin Boggy, always appreciate that. WHL, but they are playing, which is great. Adam Beckman, been cool there. Really, really major shout out at MNW Prospects, and of course Facebook.com/MNW Prospects. Minnesota Wild Nation, Patrick Turner, major shout out there. Minnesota Wild Global, Scott Cavendish, Chance Kostick, David Kostick, Kathy Main, Chad Walski, awesome guy, Michael Fick, David Abraham, awesome pages. Thank you guys so much for being great hockey friends, and the hockey community in Minnesota is great. It really is. I appreciate every one of you. I appreciate the friendships on Twitter, Facebook, and in real life as well, maybe via text and such. Thank you, all of you, for being a part of things. Please call into the show sometime. You can do that as well, which is really cool. The audio submission route is the way you go there. Simply open your smart device. There should be a free voice recording application on any smart device on the planet, or you can download one, that you like better, whatever it is, but there's free built-in ones on every device. Open it, press record, treat it like a phone call, hit stop, share it, /email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. Greatly appreciated. Please write a positive rating for Brave the Wild on Apple Podcasts, Audible, or Stitcher if you could. Those of you that have, thank you so much. And those of you that will in the future, thank you so much in advance. It really helps the show. It really does. And it just makes me feel more like I'm, like I'm doing the right thing doing this show, rather than just kind of talking to thin air out there, so to speak, which I'm sure I'm not. Thank you, all of you, again. And go Minnesota Wild. Hopefully we can keep up our winning ways somehow, some way.